Freedom Fighter Radio coming to you live from the heart of the Great White North, the heart of the True North, strong and free. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. We are about to go live on the Freedom Fighter Radio, coast to coast to coast. Folks, we are going to restart our server. So if you have been standing by with us for the last half an hour, it's time to restart your computer as I do mine so that our server will notify everybody. But those who are on Rumble, Odyssey, and the Freedom Fighter Radio app, there will be no interruption. We are going to continue on with this standby mode for one more minute just to restart. So, folks, tag your friends, share, invite everybody, come on in. We are about to start in about 1 minute. Our, our special guest tonight will be co-founder of Veterans4Freedom, one of the leaders that helped support the Freedom Convoy 2022, a historical event not only for Canada, but for worldwide. So please share. We are about to start. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. It's another night for Freedom Fighter Radio Coast to Coast. And I am excited for our special guest who is waiting for us at the backstage. I see you, sir. Give me a thumbs up. I won't be able to hear you until I get you back in. Thank you for joining us today. We already have some comments. Well, but bring your comments in. Start with your questions for Mr. Stewart Cornell. And as usual, this is like lending your car to your wife. As soon as you start sitting on the studio, things needs to be readjusted. But I'm happy to be able to broadcast and connect and create a community of freedom fighters, of freedom lovers, right here on the Freedom Fighter Radio. So as we get ready here, there we go, folks. Tonight's sponsor is flooring.ca. If you need flooring for your house, check out www.flooring.ca. Sorry. Can you see my hat? CompleteFlooring.ca is owned by a freedom fighter in Ontario, from Oakville, Ontario. We are going to promote many of our freedom fighters all across this beautiful country, this beautiful province, this beautiful city. We are an inspiration for the world, folks. So do not let yourself be uninspired. Stay inspired, because you have lit a candle of freedom worldwide. So we had a few of the Veterans4Freedom on the show. And we also have a few of police on guard for they were reaching out to Mountains for Freedom. But today I got an email as well from Police on Guard. Actually, it was an email that was sent 2 years ago. For some reason, it went to my junk mail. So I emailed Wendy right away. I said, I didn't see this. Sorry, I never saw this. For some reason, it went on the junk filter. But Police on Guard has offered yours truly a coin, a commemorative coin, and a partnership for apologies, folks. We have been plagued by mic issues. Actually, it's just battery issues. But we just solved that. So without much further ado, let's get this show started. Looking for my controls. StreamYard has changed so many updates. It's hard to find the controls. But folks, it's another night of Freedom Fighter Radio Coast to Coast. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. Our special guest tonight is none other than Veterans4Freedom founder, co-founder, a warrant officer, retired from the Canadian Armed Forces, Mr. Eddie Stewart Cornell. Let's get this show started right now.
Freedom Fighter Radio, what is up? Whoa!
Shout out to Freedom Fighter Radio. And Joe, you're doing great work, brother, and I love it. All right, always.
Make sure you listen to the Freedom Fighter Radio on the Ordinary Show.
I'm on Freedom Fighter Radio on the Ordinary Joe Show. That's quite a mouthful.
Yes. Hey guys, this is Chris Sky. Listen to Freedom Fighter Radio. They're here today, back in the blue, and so am I.
Please consider supporting the OJTV production costs and be an insider member for only $3 a month. Go to patreon.com/OJTV Canada. Thank you for your continued support.
Canadians all across the country are sick and tired of the lies, the fear-mongering, and the hate speech they hear from the mainstream media. Download the free radio app, Freedom Fighter Radio. Click the link below, scan our QR code, join our mailing list, and get a free download of our Freedom Fighter Radio app only here on OJTV on The Ordinary Joe Show.
We're coming to you live from the heart of the Great White North, from the Eastern Standard Time Zone. It's 5:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our special guest tonight is Mr. Stewart Cornell. He was a warrant officer in the Canadian Armed Forces and served 22 years. He was a gunner in the combat arms, served in several places within Canada and Europe. He was a recipient of the Medal of Bravery and received it while on tour with the Canadian Contingent in Cyprus. He has worn many hats in life, from work in the auto industry to becoming an auxiliary police officer with the Ontario Provincial Police. He had been standing up for our rights and freedom for the most beautiful country in the world for a very long time. Well before the pandemic, during the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa, he was fortunate to be able to assist the truckers' protest behind the scenes and offer a helping hand to the cause. He's also one of the founding members of the Veterans4Freedom, V4F. This was a result of the actions taken by many veterans while in Ottawa. So now, along with many of his fellow veterans, which he calls to stand, is dedicated to preserving the freedom of this country that so many have paid the ultimate price, the ultimate sacrifice to preserve. Ladies and gentlemen, without much further ado, our special guest tonight is Mr. Brother Stewart Cornell. Hello, Mr. Cornell. Thank you for joining the Freedom Fighter Radio Coast to Coast. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, Joseph. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome.
That was a great intro. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I hope I gave it justice. I'm a little bit dyslexic when it's a little far from my sight, but I'm so excited. Been looking forward to have you, sir, and been looking forward to have these conversations with a lot of our veterans, because I believe that our veterans have a lot more freedom to exercise their being Canadian, their fighting for our freedoms, our human rights, because now you're not under the sort of like if you're not active duty, then you don't have to. There's so many rules that you don't need to really be encompass anymore. Like, I think when you're active duty, you're not allowed to speak like this on podcasts or even express your political views. But I have some reservation with that rule. But before we get on with this, sir, I'm trying to put you on the right place here on my layout. If I can take out that frame so that it doesn't cover you. Okay. There you go. I would like to let's get to know a little bit more about you, Mr. Cornell. How did you started as a military personnel, and then how did Veterans for Freedom got formed? If you can share some of that for us.
Sure. Well, I was a young guy that joined the Army at 17 years old. Basically, like a lot of young fellas, wanted to serve our country and see some of the world. And that worked out pretty good for 22 years. And then, I worked into different careers to that and, found myself well-rounded, wearing many different hats. And it gave me a pretty good perspective of, how the world kind of works from my military background, plus, as a normal working person in the, in the auto industry, and then for working as an auxiliary police officer with the OPP. So, I had kind of a background of questioning things right from the get-go. When I was in the military, I guess not a popular thing to be, was a guy that liked to question orders in the military. You kind of got to follow the orders that you give them, but that never worked out too well for me. So they a lot of times didn't really know how to handle me. It would shove me off to jobs where I could kind of operate on my own. So it gave me a lot of freedom to, kind of look at things from different perspectives and kind of form opinions on, what's going on in the world. And sometimes what the narrative tends to be wasn't what was actually happening on the ground. And having been part of several things that you'd see in the news and so on, you weren't allowed to speak as a military person, but what they were saying and, in the media and what was actually taking place, it was a different story than what reality was. And that's the case today. So, I found myself probably a good decade or more standing up and trying to sort of alert people to what's happening in our country, around the world. And believe me, and and many of the people that are out there as people standing up for freedom and for our rights here in Canada, they know just how difficult that can be, with friends, family, acquaintances at work, coworkers. It's an extremely difficult thing to do, and it's not popular. So I found myself being the odd man out many times. But, it's funny how history works. A lot of times, you look back and you go, you did make the right decision. And what you were talking about actually came true. So it gave me some credibility with friends and so on, but I guess like a lot of people, I guess the hardest ones to convince are the people that are closest to you to actually what's going on.
Yes.
I'm sure everyone could relate to this. You'd be sitting at your family table and, you're discussing what's going on with friends and family. And, they kind of know you're a little outside of the norm as the way you see things. And they try to sort of make fun of you and go, so Eddie, what's happening in the world today? What kind of conspiracy theories are you investigating right now? And they'd laugh you off and, oh yeah, sure. And, put on your tinfoil hat. And it's just, it goes with the territory, but you got to stay focused and don't let that rattle you, stick on point, stick to your message, stick to what, and don't let, that incoming fire of nasty words from people discourage you, because they're going to find out one day that, maybe people like myself and others might have had a pretty good idea what's taking place.
Exactly. Well, thank you for sharing that, Mr. Cornell. A little housekeeping, folks. We are going to have 3 breaks throughout the entire episode. We are going to cut away from censorship platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube after the second break. So I recommend that you guys start looking for our Rumble. So we welcome all of our Rumble listeners and Odyssey, and most importantly, Freedom Fighter Radio app listeners that we just launched while Mr. Cornell was speaking. So just a little quick technical. We didn't do any technical before the show. If you can point your camera a little lower so that you don't have a big headroom, and that way I don't cover your face when we're putting yeah, there you go. Yes, perfect.
Okay.
That's what happens. No, the banner covers my guest face when you're low in the horizon.
Got it.
So there's a lot of things I want to talk to you about. Uh, I, I usually kind of host this podcast, uh, wing it from the heart. I don't really script anything, but I have a lot of things in my mind that I want to talk to you about. Some of them are about the wokeism that has infiltrated the military, and it's funny you said that you are someone who questioned a lot. My father served in the military, and most Filipinos are. I didn't really serve in the military, but I went to ROTC, which is similar to the United States because we were an American territory for a long time. We have the same military training in high school. We call it CAT, or Cadet Army Training, and then in college, every men and women, not only men but women as well, has to go through ROTC. But my dad also served during the Japanese occupation of the Philippines. And because he's a lawyer and he's a critical thinker, one thing he really despised when he was serving is that in the military, you obey before you complain. Obey first, and then you complain later. You put it in writing, or put a note that you really didn't like what you just ordered to do. But I feel like let's start with wokeism in the military, not only in Canada, but also in the United States. I've been following the story of Lieutenant Colonel Lohmeyer of the Air Force in the United States. And he was also I think he was the chief when Donald Trump was launching the Space Force. What I see in the military industrial complex, my problem is the most patriotic members of our society, I believe, not only in Canada, but in the United States, in the Philippines, in many countries, the most patriotic members of our society are military men who serves in the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, especially those who got involved in combat as well. But the structure is that our military is headed by a minister who is most of the time appointed by the ruling party, but our ruling party or our government at hand is also infiltrated by internationalist forces. So in effect, what happens is I feel that our military is co-opted by all of these world agenda or globalist agenda. And as a military personnel, you really have to follow order first before you complain. And I feel like even in the early history of military, warfare, early history of warfare, a lot of these what they call noblemen and the elites of society, they send all of our men, all of our boys into war. They stay home. Now the wives and the children and their cattle and their sheep and their hut are now, when those boys or those young men that they send into the war die in the war, they now grab all of this possession that the military man has served in the war. They capture all of this wealth while they stay home. I feel like there's a lot of unfair structure the way we send our military men out there, even though they are the most patriotic members of our society. I feel like the entire military industrial complex has been hijacked by the internationalist cabal. How do we overcome this? Do you see my sort of like my beef with the entire game, or do you agree with my perception, or am I wrong?
I agree 100%. Pardon me. Yeah, 100%. Wokeism is basically being introduced in every part of society, especially, in the military, but worldwide, basically, and especially here in Canada, what we're experiencing is fifth generational warfare. And basically that's within the 14 steps to Marxism. And, wokeism is just part of a bigger agenda. And it's designed to lose people on their own core values and belief system, so that anything that you believe that are ingrained in your core values are now somehow suspect or wrong. And it's happening in every facet of our life right now, right across the country and around the world. And, you know, it's almost like a cancer, and people are taking the bait, and that's what it is. It's a bait they toss out there for you to it's almost like hooking a fish in the river, you know. Wokeism is something that they hope you grab onto and run with it, because then you become the enforcers for the state and you perpetuate that mindset. And that's exactly what we're seeing. People that weren't connected, you know, in any other way to something, that were, sort of outcasts, now feel part of something, and they have moral authority over others because of sort of mindset beliefs. And it's very troubling.
To our live audiences, please come to the comment section if you're experiencing the same as I am. I'm getting a little bit of in and out from Mr. Cornell. Last time that happened, it was just my view. It wasn't the way that the audience were perceiving it. But if it's that case, please, folks, let me know so that we can restart some of what we need to fix that problem. So I am very...
Is my camera freezing or something?
Just it's crackling. Your voice are sort of like you're coming in and out on the live, but right now you're steady. But while you're talking, it was just like crackling. So Mr. Cornell, when James stopped, I interviewed him while he was on the road doing his cross country march. The Minister of Defense, Anita Anand, I think at that time also have imposed the new rule of allowing military men to wear lipstick or nail polish or wear a skirt. And they're not even talking about the female military members, but the male members of the military or the Canadian Armed Forces. Meanwhile, Mr. Tubbs put on his uniform as a freedom fighter to honor freedom in this country, and he was penalized for that. I feel that's like an upside down world. So having to follow ideology from somebody like Anita Anand, who is not trained military, he never been a part of the military community. She is an appointee of the most embarrassing prime minister ever Canada have, Mr. Trudeau. That is, I feel like that's an upside down world that we're perceiving here. I felt like when I was interviewing James, I said, James, what do you feel about that? You know why? I feel like that's backwards. That's upside down. You form by standing up for freedom. And meanwhile, all of these people, they would like to wear with the long hair and nail polish and lipstick. But I remember when I was interviewing Mr. Tubbs, I think he's still active duty. So there are limits to what he can express. But I know you're retired, sir. What do you think about that? I'll ask you instead, because I know that he couldn't express himself fully, but you can.
Hopefully you can hear me not crackling.
Yeah,
it's a little bit, but I do have a crackly voice anyway.
It's not your voice. It's just the connection.
Okay.
Are you in a... I remember I saw one of your video that you are in your 30-acre property. Is that?
Yeah, I actually live out here in New Brunswick now on 30 acres, very nice and private, and yeah, it's great.
That's beautiful.
We were
maybe the internet in that area is not. The internet is 5G. What is the internet out there?
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but it is 5G out here.
Anyways, back to you.
Well, you know, with James Topp, I think that was probably one of the biggest travesties that, you know, mainstream media and, you know, the government tried to perpetrate on, you know, a fine combat veteran that stood up for freedoms and put himself physically, you know, in probably one of the most difficult things somebody could do, to march across the country freedom. And what did they do? Radio silence on mainstream media. And when there was any talk from anybody in legacy media or government, it was to label him as some kind of conspiracy theorist, some alt-right It's a disgrace. You know, he stood up for every Canadian. His message basically was just that, you know, no to mandates, live by our Constitution. That's basically it. They tried to literally jettison him into, you know, oblivion by calling him all kinds of different names. It's very telling. And the other thing that really upset me is that our leaders didn't stand up for him. And so, I speak for all veterans. You know, I'm part of Veterans for Freedom. We have about 3,000 members growing right now. And
Wow.
I'm pretty safe to say that, you know, we're all sort of the same set that, you know, our Legion is letting us down. They should have gotten behind and supported James Tupp, a 5-time combat veteran. Do you know that he was going to be speaking with citizens at several legions across the country? And what happened was that at the last moment, these legions were booked for him to have people come in and, you know, meet and greet, shake hands. Hey, how you doing? They canceled, in one case in Quebec, canceled his show the night where his, not his show, I apologize for that, his venue. And then they allowed a drag show to take place instead of him. So,
Oh my goodness.
to find another place to meet and greet with people that were supporters. And I thought that was a disgrace. So myself, I really have nothing to say about, you know, about the Legion these days, nor will I wear the poppy. The poppy, I understand what it represents. Veterans for Freedom, we have our own that we've designed. You see, the thing is that I understand what the poppy means, but what the poppy is that the Legion makes money off of poppy sales. So myself, I'm not going to support the Legion, although I stand with my brothers and sisters across the country, you know, in remembrance of our fallen and those who served. I know that's harsh. A lot of people will be very upset by hearing me say something like that, but our Legion should have came and stood up for James. And the other thing that was very upsetting, you know, I was one of the guys, along with many other veterans in Ottawa, when we took down the barriers around the National War Memorial. And the Legion condemned our behavior. I would think most people would think a fence around a war memorial where you see people, you know, that gave their lives standing up for our freedoms here in Canada with a fence around it sends a pretty terrible message. That's what
I would say it's vandalism.
Message. Yeah, they, you know, they said we tore it down, we desecrated the war memorial. That's not the case at all. Our guys were there 24 hours a day, guarding it, keeping the snow and the ice off, and protecting that monument from any harm that might come to it during the convoy.
No, I had the video prepared actually to show that, but then something happened and got corrupted. I want to play how there was a video on V4F YouTube channel. Maybe I'll get it a little later, where it shows how respectfully the veterans are taken off the fence around the memorial. And like you said, I totally agree. Fencing off a war memorial is vandalism, in my opinion. So you are giving respect. So because you were crackling in and out earlier, you said that, so you were talking about the legionnaires who did not stand with you, that they should have stood with you. Did you say as well the Canadian Armed Forces did not stand with you? You feel that they should have? Is that
no? I understand. You know, serving members really can't. You know, they can't be political and speak publicly about anything. So that's not an issue at all.
All right.
You know, it's like I don't speak for all veterans. You know, it's each one's an individual. You know, and Veterans for Freedoms, we don't tell people what they can and can't say, because, you know, freedom of speech is, I think, overall one of the most important things that we have in this country, and that's being removed very quickly. So, you know, I know that a lot of veterans may not agree with us, and that's okay. In a society, you can disagree with each other and be respectful of one another. But the level of vitriol that you see towards certain things which take place in this country is very disturbing.
So I'm
Yeah.
I'm curious about that, Mr. Cornell. How
Eddie,
other
please.
oh, Eddie, okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious about why a brother in arms or a brother in the fight or a brother in the armed forces for you would not stand with you when you guys were fighting for freedom of this country. Because when you are active duty, you cannot say anything. And actually, I don't know, as a citizen, as a civilian, my opinion is, I feel like that is not, that doesn't make sense for me, for a member of the military not be able to speak his or her mind. Yes, I understand political stripes, you don't want to take sides on politics, but if it's an issue of right versus wrong, an issue of human rights versus tyranny, I feel like the even active duty members should be able to express their thoughts that no, we stand for freedom. We are also Canadians, even though we're active duty. They even though they are active duty, they should be able to express themselves that the reason they fight for this country is to preserve our rights and freedom. So I wonder now that a lot of these, the legionnaires are, I assume the legionnaires are the ones who are a legion of veterans, right? The retired or non-active duty anymore veterans. Do you think now that 3 years later we the general public is now awakened to the fact that most of everything that we were saying from the onset turned out to be true, turned out that we are standing actually for them who were afraid, we were actually standing for those who were screaming at us and vilifying us. We were standing for everyone. James Stott were standing for those who agree with him and those who did not agree with him. He marched this country for both the vaxxers and the anti-vaxxers, and those who were with the government and those who were with against the government. Do you think they kind of realize now, not standing with you, maybe they were coerced into believing something, or they were fearful themselves, or what do you think is the biggest motivation for them not standing with you when you were showing the country that the veterans are with the freedom fighters?
That's a pretty good observation. But, the thing is, people were afraid. They didn't know what to believe. When you have, legacy media telling you, there's people dying everywhere, that, this virus is, highly contagious, and that you're going to kill grandma. And, everybody knows the whole story. It's not about whether people got vaccinated or not. It's about having the choice to make that decision yourself. I hope it doesn't get you kicked off of Facebook, what I'm saying. But
we can use code words like, I use the word vaccine. Seems like the algorithm doesn't pick up the word vaccine.
Okay, I'll try to avoid those phrases.
Yeah.
But so I understand that people did what they did for the right reasons in their mind, but people are starting to wake up to the fact that maybe things weren't quite the way that they were led to believe. So there is an awakening going on from people that were very hard on the other side. Have they come to our side at this point, where we were, suspicious of this from the beginning? I don't think they're there yet. And some people never will be, because they're not getting the information. Information is being censored and stifled. And, the amount of misinformation and disinformation is really coming from the government. It's not coming from people like yourself or myself. And that's why they want to pass laws to protect themselves, so that they can stifle the message that, people are hearing, so that they don't hear the reality of what's taken place in the past 3 years. So I really feel badly for the people that had to make the decision to do what they did based on employment status and, being able to travel, be able to do things that, any member of society in a free society should be able to do. So I can understand why they did that. But I really have to admire everybody in this country that stood up and said, no, I'm not doing this, and put themselves in extremely difficult circumstances. And everybody's circumstances were different, but held to that for 3 years at great cost. You have to realize that people that did that level of fortitude, I guess, and determination to stick to your principle is unbelievable in the face of what everyone in society and the government and employers were trying to do to people. To stand there and take it and not react in a nasty, violent way, but in a peaceful way, and express things, trying to educate people. I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it. I'm so proud of everybody across the country that held the line and didn't cave under that pressure, because the psychological, emotional, the physical, the whole environment of people's world was under attack. So what I do know is that now, as a result of what's taken place in the past 3 years, we know who to count on. We've found each other. All of us know who we are. And we know that we support each other. And these are people you might not have ever met should circumstances like this have not happened. The other side can't say that. They would turn on each other like a pack of wolves. They really would. And they would throw each other in a heartbeat. It's not the case for people that are in the freedom movement. The people that standing up for freedom, they have your back. Now, there is some division that happens, like in anything within the freedom movement, but that's a diversion. Don't let that throw you. You're going to hear, all kinds of different things. But as a whole, right across the country, people stood fast. And I'm really proud to see that happen.
I'm a little, because I'm a civilian, I guess I have license to go a little further with my stepping on some more people's toes. When all of these lockdowns were happening, you being a member of the military community, you were divided by our government from your brothers in the armed forces. When this was happening, I was a strong member of the Christian community of the evangelical church. And that happened to us as well. As a Christian, as a fellow brother in Christ, many of our pastors and our organizational churches are have go along and complied against the teaching of the scripture, against the teaching of the word. They went along with, social distancing. Do not come to church unless you're vaccinated. Do not, this is so much against, very, very much against the teaching of Christ. But also our politicians, many of the politicians, I had an opportunity to interview Mr. Polyev twice in 2020. And one of the private interviews was in a Zoom call with some of the local conservative politicians here in Ontario. And I came with a question because it was very recent. 2017 is when we had about 700 kids died in the Philippines because of a dengue vaccine forced upon the children in schools. They did mandatory vaccination in schools and about 700 kids died. And that was fresh in many Filipino Canadians' minds. And I brought that up to Mr. Polyev, and I asked him if mandatory vaccines ever come to Canada. what would you do, or what would the conservative? And he was passionate with his answer. We will fight it to the nail, Joe. I promise you. And all the lockdowns happened, and I never heard from Mr. Pulayev. So I feel, I know that to give some of these people who did not stand with us the benefit of the doubt, and sometimes we're giving them too much of a pass. I think the ordinary Jane and Joe, yes, responded because of fear, because of gaslighting by the powers that be. But there were elements in the other side who probably are part of the movement. Because in our church, I heard, in the evangelical churches, I heard of pastors being paid to preach on compliance and preach on the vaccine, and to getting money to shut down the churches. So I don't know. And we heard of Polyev's wife also being CEO of the testing company, the COVID test companies, and he never disclosed that. So I feel, do you think it's possible that some of the military members who threw you under the bus, maybe, they are cozying up with some of these internationalists? That's why they were, do you think they were connected somehow?
Well, I think, I guess to sort of bring it in simple terms, is that probably a large number of the military really are thinking like you and I, but they can't express it publicly. The other side, of course, they're not going to express it publicly either, but they do let us know through back channels that they like what we're doing. We can't name names, we can't say who, but we get signs of, yeah, we like what you guys are doing. But here's the way I look at it, and I think maybe a lot of people might find this kind of harsh. I don't know. This is just for me only. If you're looking forgiveness, only the good Lord can forgive you, not me. I'm not out to give forgiveness. I won't forget what they've done. So if you're looking to get forgiveness, get it from God above, because forgiveness for what people have done to people in this country, it's not mine to give.
And people we thought would be our heroes, those who will stand with us, were the ones who kind of threw us under the bus. But people we didn't expect who will stand up, like yourself, sir, and many police on guard members. And you could be both, actually, because you were OPP, right? You were.
I was, yeah. I'm actually a member of Police on Guard as well.
Oh, you are as well.
I think I was like the first 5 to join Police on Guard back when it was first forming.
In the early days, I had Len Fall. They used to have Len Fall as their spokesperson. I had them twice on the show. It was a different name. The show was a different name before. But trying to get back on track, what I was trying to say here is, I feel like human rights lawyers in Ontario, none of them spoke up. Even one of the, during the public inquiry on the Emergency Act, I think they're called the there is a group there who asked questions as well, but you never heard from them during the heavy lockdowns. They're speaking up now, but we know that the Human Rights Code in Ontario, the Health Privacy Act, or they're not supposed to ask for our vaccination status. There is also Human Rights Code in Ontario and in Canada. I think it's parallel, that you cannot prevent people from accessing certain places because of their health status. That was a direct violation of our human rights. But and James Kitchen, one of the lawyers for truth that I interviewed here on the show, he said when he was defending James Coates, the pastor of the church that was fenced off in Calgary, Alberta, the judges behave as if the charters do not exist in their, and we've seen that with the judge, what's his name again, the commissioner of the Emergency
Oh,
Act,
well,
Justice
Yep.
Rulo, heard all of our testimony, but he still come with a conclusion as if he didn't hear anything. So
it's kangaroo court. I mean, we knew prior to that beginning that that would be the outcome. We'd hoped it would have been different, but it's when you get a liberal appointing a liberal to see if a liberal is doing anything wrong, what do you think the answer is going to be? Everybody put their hopes into that, hoping that there would be, some kind of a decision or a watered down decision. He shouldn't have done it, but he did it under these circumstances. But it was completely the other way. But remember, that's only an inquiry. It has no bearing legally.
it was not a trial. Yeah.
It's not a trial. So we're not done yet. We have a long road ahead of us. But let's hope that our Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, has not been corrupted.
Yes, let's hope.
The problem with, when you get to the federal court and below, is that you have one person, a judge, deciding in most cases. And that's one opinion. Let's hope that Supreme Court, where you have six members making a decision, let's hope that they make decisions based on law, not on political law, or political influence. Let's hope that they're free from that. That's our only hope, is because what hope do Canadians have if they find that everything is corrupted, right through all of our political, from municipal, provincial, nationally, and then find out that also the courts are corrupted? I don't know. Do you think we can vote our way out of this mess when you have a uniparty? The Conservatives, the Liberals, and the NDP. Yeah, sure, they look like they're fighting with each other, but really they're not. They're all on the same page. There's nobody speaking up. I see that Polyev spoke up and said that he's going to go after the drug companies for $44 billion over fentanyl. Well, that's fine and well, but there's a bigger elephant in the room, and you're not making a mention of it. Why not? Why aren't you saying anything? Why are you not standing up and speaking and questioning things? I'm not asking you to make a predetermined decision, but let's examine the facts. This is what we're going to bring forward. But it's radio silence from these people. And everybody wants to put their faith in the Conservative Party or the NDP or the Liberals. I don't have any faith in any one of those parties. I wish I did. Because, we would see some way out of this. I don't expect much if the Conservatives get elected. I just think it's going to be a flip side of a Liberal coin. I hate to say that, but they've not demonstrated to me, and I'd like somebody to point it out to me, that they would be any different. They have great sound bites. Polyev has great sound bites, but really there's not a lot of meat in the bone when he gets talking.
I just got
feel that way.
Yes. Well, I feel like you said, it's two sides of the same coin. And I like this podcaster, Amazing Polly. She kind of pointed out how we are sort of being gaslit. And a good example that she explained was Dr. Jordan Peterson, because he speaks so much similar to our language, we tend to gravitate towards him. But if at the end, if the tyrants really want to wipe out the opposition, is they will prop up their own person that we will gravitate to, who will throw us all under the bus. I feel like that's how it's going to happen. We are going to gravitate to someone we feel like is on our side, but then that person is an agent of the tyrant to throw us under the bus. I'd like to promise our audience members this first part, I just kind of want to reminisce. And after the break, we are going to move forward to futuristic. What's the future in store for us? But I just want to kind of bring back some of the memories. This is a photo I discovered from CNN. They post this. Sorry, it's so tiny. I had it ready, but it got corrupted. I haven't seen this photo before. Can you see it properly, sir?
I can see it. Yeah. That
okay.
was that was a news conference in Ottawa that we did during the Freedom Convoy.
And this is you. I see that Danny Bulford is on the left. You are on the right, facing the media.
Right.
Media
And Vincent Gerses is in the middle.
I haven't met Vincent Gerses. Is he Veterans for Freedom as well, or?
No, he's a retired OPP officer, and he's got a group called Police for Freedom.
Police for Freedom. Okay, so similar to Police on Guard, but another group. Awesome. Because yes, and this one here, tell us a little bit about this beautiful photo of you speaking to the crowd. When did this happen, sir?
That was the first weekend in Ottawa. And I think there was probably about 50,000 people there at the stage that day. And there was all kinds of speakers. And it was amazing. I've never felt anything like that, with having spent up until that time. I've been to several protests, well, actually many in Toronto and all through Ontario. But I've never experienced anything like that. To find that many, people coming together, and it was like minus 25 or so that day. But nobody seemed cold. We were just having the best time in the world.
The hearts were warm.
It was unbelievable. Anybody that wasn't there, it's really hard to put into words what the energy level was.
Do you remember what you said to the crowd, and what was the response?
I'd have to really think about that. I think I was just in a state of shock, really, that here I am speaking to 50,000 people. I'm nobody, just regular Joe. And, these people want to hear what I have to say. And it was amazing. The support I got from everybody. It was high fives everywhere after the hugs and you name it for the rest of the day. It was fantastic.
Awesome. When that was happening, we have a smaller group here in Ontario Parliament trying to support all of our truckers in Ottawa, because we know that the jackboots are coming from the Ontario Parliament. And don't go away, folks. When we come back, we are going to start to talk about future goals and aspirations, and how the Veterans for Freedom can see in the future how our countries will be taken back. Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back in less than a minute.
Just because it's a seller's market, it does not mean that it's not a good time for you, the buyer, to get into your dream home. The seller's market presents a unique opportunity not available during the buyer's market. Find out for yourself. Get the professional advice of an experienced, honest, Christian freedom-loving real estate professional. Call my friend, our sister in the fight for freedom, Madam Cheryl Severance of Century 21 at 905-646-2121, or check out her website at cheryl-severance.c21.ca.
Fund the truth. Fund the unacceptable fringe views of the Freedom Fighter radio broadcast. Go to patreon.com/OJTV Canada and also donate $3 per month and help us keep going and pushing back against the lies, the hate, and the fear-mongering of the legacy media. Patreon.com/OJTV Canada. Your $3 per month will help us set fire on the lies of the tyrants, the technocrats, and the internationalist social engineers. Patreon.com/OJTV Canada.
Did you hear about the children's cough syrup shelves? They are mostly empty in the drugstores. Are you concerned? Do you feel the need to stockpile? As the world heads towards uncertainty, with every nation meeting its own challenges, Larks Medical are staged and ready to respond. Go to larksmedical.com. Provide them with your name, phone number, and email, and Larks will respond at their earliest possible availability to find solutions and ensure ample supply for your needs. Or email them directly at info@larksmedical.com. That's info@larksmedical.com.
I'm Pastor Arthur from Calgary, the leader of the Independence Party of Alberta. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Worldwide podcast, only here on the Ordinary Joe Show.
Welcome back, folks. This is Freedom Fighter Radio, coast to coast to coast. I'm your host, Ordinary Joe. Our special guest is Mr. Eddie Cornell, Stewart Cornell, a warrant officer, retired from the Canadian Armed Forces. The way I kind of put this episode together is we're going to talk about the past. Now we're going to talk about the present, and then we are going to talk about the future. There are 3 more segments, shorter segments, and 2 more breaks. But after the second break, folks, we are going to break away from Facebook, from Twitter, and from YouTube so that we can go deeper into some of the futuristic goals, I guess, for our freedom community. So without much further ado, please welcome back Mr. Eddie Cornell. Hello, sir. Welcome back.
Hi.
Thank you for your patience when we do a little bit of this break so that, we somehow have a little bit of fun to maintain the show.
Great.
So we reminisce a little bit about the past. Now, can you talk about the present, sir? What are the active projects or endeavors that the Veterans for Freedom are doing? And you personally, what are you doing in the present, and in the other side of the break, in the next break, we'll talk about what can we expect in the future. But what are some of the active projects of Veterans for Freedom today?
Well, Veterans for Freedom, we're spread out right across the country. We have, different groups in each province. We're involved in community events, community organizing, supporting, special events. And it's a veteran support network. Veterans that need assistance or, are going through some difficult times. We're there to do what we can to help out our brothers and sisters. We're also there to help the community. And, we've done a lot of different things behind the scenes to assist in things that are unjust, where people are not being treated properly, especially when it comes to kids. We've been involved with a lot of different things, helping out children right across the country. We don't look for accolades and, sort of praise for what we do. We like to work behind the scenes and get that kind of stuff done and help people to, make their day better or their week or their life better by a small thing that we can offer and assist. And it's worked out very, very well. We have a fantastic group of veterans. Like I say, we have over 3,000 veterans right across the country. And there is a lot of talent within our organization. I don't think the government kind of likes us so much because, when you see it, generally veterans are guys that we're kind of a bunch of has-beens the government's tossed out after retire, and they never want to hear from you again unless you show up on Remembrance Day. And the rest of the time, that's it. Like, they don't care what you do. But when you see 3,000 veterans organizing, something's up. So, and they've tried to label us with all kinds of different labels as, domestic terrorists, alt-right. Whatever you can think of, that's what we've been called. We're none of that. We're a group that is about nonviolence, peaceful resistance, and standing up for what's right. And it's as simple as that. And if we can help somebody in the community and it comes to our attention and there's something we can do, we're going to do it. And, I guess what really showed us what we can do is that in Ottawa, everybody's seen the footage where, the police attacked the citizens, but the veterans were in between the people and the police. We were acting as the buffer to protect not only the police, but to protect the citizens. And that's never really been done in this country before. And I don't think the government liked that so much. So I guess our mission, as Veterans for Freedom, is to be a support network for Canadians and for fellow veterans. And wherever that takes us, that's what we're going to do. And, we remain fluid and flexible, and we're enjoying, seeing our membership growing. At one point, and I know the government doesn't like this, but our unit, Veterans for Freedom, was recruiting or growing, having members sign up at a higher rate than people enlisting in the Canadian Forces. So I don't think that was too popular. So, but none of our people are paid. We're a nonprofit. We have, a merchandise store, and all of those profits from those sales, they go to help us to keep things going, to be able to help in the community and put funds where it's needed. And it's really, really important. And I'm very proud that this organization was able to have our first anniversary this month. And it's amazing. Oh, your mic is gone.
Sorry, yeah.
There you go.
I keep on forgetting to unmute myself. Was the anniversary happen already, or is about to happen this month?
It happened, yeah.
Oh, it happened. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. I should have.
We're a brand new organization, and in 1 year to come from nothing to over 3,000 members with national recognition.
Did you?
We're very proud of that.
Did you do something special in your anniversary day?
No, we didn't this year. We had a fundraising dinner last year, celebrating that, we were a new organization. That was really successful. We had no idea that so many people would respond and come out to support us. We had a big dinner in Burlington, and it really kickstarted, our ability to do things. It gave us the funding we needed to, be a viable group that can help to make a difference in different communities. And it's working very, very well. And we're still growing. Applications are coming in rapidly. Mm-hmm. So I would expect, hopefully next year at this time, we'll have 5,000 to 6,000 members.
Wow. Well, I hope, if I may suggest, I think right now you're accepting membership that are veterans and former members of the military. I wish that there's also a open to the public, a civilian supporter kind of membership.
There is, and there will be.
There?
Yeah. Okay. So, and that's coming. Our website is actually undergoing reconstruction at the moment. But yeah, we're going to be taking, citizens and maybe the spouses of military members or former military members or people that have passed on, or children of military members that can come out and be, supporters and patriots of Veterans for Freedom. And we're looking forward to that, because I really think our numbers will grow massively. And, we have no political agenda. We're apolitical. So we're not out to be, a Veterans for Freedom political party. We're not, that's not us. We don't support, publicly. Everybody can choose who they want to vote for within our organization, but we don't publicly support any particular party. And I think that's the way that this organization needs to be.
There's some idea actually that I will be sharing with you, but not right now. We will do that when we cut off from the censorship platform later on, when we're purely on Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute. But for now, just going back to what you said, sir, you said there earlier, and I am baffled initially, but now I think I understand why. But I remember that maybe about 5 years now, when we heard of this rhetoric from many governments, especially the United States, that the terrorist watch that they're putting on, they said most likely it's going to be a lone wolf, and most likely it's going to be an ex-military member. And I don't know why they want to associate veterans and those who served as the potential, you know, domestic terror threat, a lone wolf. I think they are afraid. In my opinion, the governments are afraid now that when you are not active duty, you are a citizen and you can speak your mind, but you also had the training, you had the leadership, you had the training, you have the understanding, you know how to organize. And on the other side of the next break, for those who are joining us on social media, start looking for a Rumble. I pasted the Rumble because what the questions I'm gonna be asking Eddie on the other side is, you know, what are some of the things we can do in case the government starts rounding up dissidents and we are forced to flee the city centers and, you know, start forming our escape into the prairies, for example, and start creating our own colonies of resistance. I think the Veterans for Freedom might play a leadership role if that ever happened. But let's talk about that when we cut away from social media right now. Why do you think that's what my thought, Mr. Eddie? I know it's very weird for me to call people by their first name just because of our culture always trying to be respectful. But why would the governments be singling out members of the military as threats?
Well, look at it this way. A large number of our members have taken actual fire. They've been under actual real fire. So all the government really has, for the most part, is scary words. They don't scare people that have been under actual fire. So, that falls very short. So we're not going to turn and run away over scary words. That's just not how it happens. But what they misunderstand is that violence is not the answer. They think that that's what we want. No, that's not what we want. Violence will not solve anything. Our guys have experienced violence and nobody wins. You have to win hearts and minds. That's it.
That's right. And something that you mentioned there earlier, during the protest right now, during the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa, we saw how the veterans can be a big asset to people who just want to exercise their democratic right to protest because you serve as a buffer. But in earlier protests in Toronto, I'm not sure if the veterans were already there, but I seen many of these protests where the jackboots, the police just see a very, very soft target among many protesters, and that's probably why they are ready to thump on or to abuse the citizens. I remember growing up in the Philippines because most men are military trained, men and women, but most of the men advances a little further into the military training. And I've been involved as a photojournalist covering for our college paper, covering many of these protests. I never seen the police, even in riot gear, have so much nonchalant disdain for the general public in the Philippines, because the way the protests are organized, even how they lock arms and how the ordinary Jane and Joe Filipinos in 1986 revolution, for example, when we kicked out Ferdinand Marcos, the military doesn't just attack the civilians because they know that the civilians know how to organize, even flanking, and how they face off. And I felt like a lot of our young men in Canada because of the lack of training, are throwing screams and shouts and insults instead of like organizing how they can protect the men and women in their flank. um so I thought, when we have Veterans for Freedom protecting our men, I really believe that men, women, elderlies, and children should be part of the protest, because that's how we kicked out Ferdinand Marcos in 1986. Little children in flip flops, grandparents in wheelchairs, and what do you call this? I forgot the English word for it. They everybody came out. We have cook off. We have people taking turns. People bringing food. Those who slept at night, they will come in the morning and replace those who vigil overnight, bring food for them. It's like a big party, just like what we saw here in February, but everybody's involved: children, men, women, and elderlies, because it's a referendum when you show we don't approve with what the government is doing, and all of us citizens are showing our dissent or our disapproval, but they are not so easily thinking that they can attack the civilians, because the civilians are trained militarily. So I thought that is a very, very positive addition of the Veterans for Freedom. And I would even suggest young men who were not military trained maybe learn from the veterans how to protect the men, the women, and children in a protest. Do you agree with my thoughts, sir?
I do. And that kind of was organic, what happened in Ottawa. In Ottawa, we had families and, young and old. But what was happening, and, a lot of people will know this, is that the police and the media were putting out stories that they're going to take your pet and euthanize your pet. They're going to take your children away. They're going to, they were putting all of these scare tactics to scare people away. So when people saw the veterans, and it started organically, it wasn't anything that was organized. We just all showed up. I put out a call on one of the, press conferences that we did, and I called Stand 2, and that's kind of on the veterans flag now, Stand 2. I think you might have seen that, but that was like a bell to come to all the veterans that did show up, and many more came. And it really brought something to the table. I mean, the truckers burst the door wide open with what they did. Thank God the truckers stood up in the way that they did. And, this was so inspiring for the country. But the veterans came there and showed the support that they needed, because we can organize as a group. And we were able to, facilitate sort of being there, being a buffer, not letting people get pushed around, just kind of being visible. And it really changed the dimension of things. And the great thing about truckers is, truckers are so independent. They're used to getting in their truck, and they have their rig, and they can get from point A to point B, and they can fix a breakdown. So these guys are, they're independent people. These guys are independent thinkers. They get stuff done. They know how to make things happen. And that was really great when they came to Ottawa and organized in that fashion. It was a little more difficult with all the truckers having worked independently so many times, working together. But it was great to see it evolve to the point where they became an organized group of people that really brought attention to the world. And
I would like to take this opportunity, because we've been hearing for the last 2 years, and I love the truckers. I met many of the leaders, Chris Barber, Bridget Belton, Tom Arazo. I interviewed many of, Tom Arazo is not a trucker, but my point exactly is that this will not, we honor the truckers, we love them, and we give them the accolades due to the initiative that the truckers did, but the success of 2022 convoy wouldn't have happened the way it did if not for the veterans, if not for the nurses, if not for the pastors, if not for the vloggers on the ground, because the CBC and all the mainstream media are not covering what's going on, if not for the podcasters, if not for the young families and children who showed how peaceful it is with the bouncy castles, and it's the entire Canadian community that made it happen. And now we see that if we give credit only on one sector of society, we've seen some attempts to revive the spirit of the Freedom Convoy, but without the help of the veterans, without the doctors being there, without the entire community and just truckers, it's very limited success. And so I would like to take this opportunity that the honor and the gratitude that Canadians should have for the 2022 Freedom Convoy is not only truckers. Truckers led the way, truckers initiated, but the success was because of everybody who said the truckers are ramming the ice. Let's go support the truckers. Without those support, I don't think it would have been
100%. Yeah, I agree 100%. They kicked the door open, and everybody else, was able to, have the support of each other and move along with the truckers, and have that whole movement be the success that it was. You're right. If you took any piece away from that, it wouldn't have been as successful. It was. I don't think you could recreate that. It's
unless
like
everybody come in again. I think we are at a precipice here that the governments tried a beta test, and they think, oh, we can gaslight the Canadians, we can manipulate them, and so if they decide to gear it up again, and they say, you know what, we're gonna force everybody to take a digital ID and roll in the digital currency and the social credit score. You won't be able to buy, sell, feed your family without compliance. They might rally an even bigger Freedom Convoy, and hopefully the truckers will lead the way again. But I think that will bring everybody back, like the doctors and the veterans and the police and the podcasters and the vloggers on the ground. So I think they should be warned not to try any more atrocity. Before we go on break, last words, sir, about this. It'll be a little longer break, and then we'll be cutting off from social media, folks.
Okay. Well, I do have some positive news about that, and I want to sort of get that across that don't give up. The end of the movie's not been written yet, and there's good things to come. There really is.
Awesome.
Stay tuned.
Awesome. Stay tuned. So, folks, don't go away. This is the second to the last break, and we're going to the last segment. Don't go away. When we come back, it will be Rumble, Odyssey, and Freedom Fighter Radio. We will be cutting off from Facebook, so please look for our Rumble, and many of them are already there. And so don't go away. We'll be right back after these short messages.
Just because it's a seller's market, it does not mean that it's not a good time for you, the buyer, to get into your dream home. The seller's market presents a unique opportunity not available during the buyer's market. Find out for yourself. Get the professional advice of an experienced, honest, Christian freedom-loving real estate professional. Call my friend, our sister in the fight for freedom, Madam Cheryl Severance of Century 21 at 905-646-2121, or check out her website at cheryl-severance.c21.ca.
Fund the truth. Fund the unacceptable fringe views of the Freedom Fighter radio broadcast. Go to patreon.com/OJTV Canada and also donate $3 per month and help us keep going and pushing back against the lies, the hate, and the fear-mongering of the legacy media. Patreon.com/OJTV Canada. Your $3 per month will help us set fire on the lies of the tyrants, the technocrats, and the internationalist social engineers. Patreon.com/OJTV Canada.
Did you hear about the children's cough syrup shelf? They are mostly empty in the drugstores. Are you concerned? Do you feel the need to stockpile? As the world heads towards uncertainty, with every nation meeting its own challenges, Larks Medical are staged and ready to respond. Go to larksmedical.com. Provide them with your name, phone number, and email, and Larks will respond at their earliest possible availability to find solutions and ensure ample supply for your needs. Or email them directly at info@larksmedical.com. That's info@larksmedical.com.
I'm Pastor Arthur from Calgary, the leader of the Independence Party of Alberta. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Worldwide podcast, only here on the Ordinary Joe Show.
Imagine that the power grid was totally wiped by an EMP weapon of an enemy state. Your stress level will go to the roof, your patience will be tried, you will have to think about both your own and your complaining children's survival. If you don't survive, your children won't when they are left on their own. Teach your children how to have the mentality of being survivors through a fun, children-friendly guided outdoor adventures with basic survivor mindfulness integrated in the fun outing activity. Call my friends Ornell and Victoria who are experienced survivors. Call them at 905-252-8009 or email them at northernpacificcottages@gmail.com. A disturbing news. Doctors administer certain drugs even after the family have rejected it. Why? Because hospitals can charge $3,000 a pop for it. Meanwhile, they hid the fact that cheaper alternatives are available and it only costs cents. Do you know if you are paying the right price for your current prescription? Have you researched if there are cheaper yet equally effective alternatives? Call Shinlaza Pharmaceuticals at 1-800-206-0051 or email at info@shinlaza.com for a free consultation. Shinlaza Pharmaceuticals is owned and operated by a freedom fighter of the Freedom Community in Ontario.
Hello, friends. I am Derek Sloan, the leader of the Ontario Party. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Canada podcast, only here on the Ordinary Joe Show.
Hello, folks. So I just placed the link for our Rumble. I didn't have enough time to get Odyssey, but from Rumble you will see on the description all the other channels. And we are going to say goodbye to all of our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube listeners. Please come and join us on Rumble and Odyssey, because now we are going to talk freely about censored stuff. And so I'm just going to take out all of the Facebook and Twitter now. Bye, Facebook. 1, 2. I'm going to take off 4 channels from Facebook. 3, 4. And bye, YouTube.